What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Night Owls podcast. My name is JJ Met, and I am going to be your host for today's episode. And joining us today, we have a very special guest, Hudson Friedman. Hudson, you're new to the Night Owls podcast, first episode being recorded for the Owls fans out here watching. They want to know about you. So, first off, why are you an FAU fan? Second off, introduce yourself. Who are you? Night Owls fans want to know. And three, why are you interested in sports media and broadcasting?
Yeah, man. FAU is just an amazing team to watch and grow. I mean, they're such young and talented teams, especially this year. They have brought in so much young guys, new head coaching change. What is more exciting to watch than see this team develop? And I think they're going to develop into a great team this year. I'm excited to watch it unfold. Then you mentioned why do I like sports broadcasting so much? Well, I just love talking, and sports is a topic that I love covering. It makes it that much easier when you're able to talk about something that you love to cover. I think that this job is perfect for that. So
It 100% is. And that's why everyone that is in sports media pretty much is in it because it is so fun to be able to talk about sports. It's kind of a escape from the reality of life. It brings communities together, cities together. Sports just so much for people, and it's a way to spend leisure time, which is how we want to do it as our jobs and in the future. So Hudson, we both love sports, and now we get to talk about it with the local hometown team in the Florida Atlantic Owls. And today we're going to be focusing on the wide receivers. You haven't been at fall camp yet. I've been at fall camp this year, and today, we talked to the wide receivers. We talked to Coach McCarthy, wide receiver coach. We talked to Asad Wasim, Jabari Smith, and Easton Messer. So we got a whole new outlook on the receivers. A lot of good quotes mentioned. And the camaraderie and togetherness of this receiver room is super different. What are your overall takeaways of the receiver room this year?
yeah, man. So it seems like that we have a very experienced receiver room, right? There's only three freshmen that this team has to offer, but then you look, there's four seniors and five juniors. So that tells me that there's a very experienced receiver room. And they might not be FAU experienced, but they're experienced around the world of college football.
Yeah, 100%. It is super experienced. And can you tell us about some of the experience that FAU has?
So some of the experience that FAU has brought in, I'm looking at Easton Messer, who is a junior. He transferred from Western Kentucky, which is the same exact place where their starting quarterback, Caden Veltkamp, transferred from. Easton Messer last year on Western Kentucky received for over 800 receiving yards while being thrown the ball. Kagan Veltkamp had over 1,000. So there is some chemistry there. If you look around even in the NFL, there is chemistry around the league. You look at Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, they played a couple years at LSU together, and they're turning out just fine over there. So I think that chemistry with a new team, new head coach, new everything, I think that would bring the culture together in FAU.
Yeah, Easton Messer is definitely going to be a threat on the Owls roster. And I really like how you mentioned that he has the experience in the connection with Caden Velkamp, which is going to pay dividends certainly this season. And Messer, he's someone who could really make an impact, not just on FAU, but in all of the G5. He is certainly a top five receiver in the group of five. And that shows because he was listed onto the Paul Horning Award watch list, which goes to the most versatile player in college football. And he's a team player. He stated in today's presser, he said, quote, whatever my team needs me to do, I'll do it. And at Western Kentucky, he had over 1,300 yards in 2 seasons. He was the Burstworth Award finalist for the best former walk on. And now he's with Caden Velkamp, his quarterback at Western Kentucky. So that's going to be huge. But can you talk about some of the other experience in the receiver room?
Yeah, so you can't talk about experience without talking about J.R. Wilson, who is a senior out of Virginia. I mean, this guy is experienced. He has not been seeing the field a lot, but man, has he been good. Out of Virginia, he caught a pass against UNC for a touchdown. He had about 130 yards, but he averaged 15.2 yards per catch in 2024. Longest touchdown, 68-yarder against the Semi Mexico versus North Carolina.
He did indeed. And as you mentioned, 3 seasons at UVA, and he wants to be able to get a chance to be able to get multiple reps and targets at a school. And what better school to choose than FAU, where Coach McCarthy, at his third stint at FAU, can be able to teach him a new playbook, who has experience and is able to get JR on the roster. Now, FAU and Coach McCarthy mentioned today that this FAU team is expected to put 3 receivers in the slot. That's going to be Assad, Easton, and Jabari. But J.R. Wilson is in competition for one of those outside spots. Do you think he's going to be able to do that and be that
There
starting receiver on the outside?
There's no doubt that any of the guys that you mentioned could be that slot receiver guy. I mean, all of them are really good. They're really all talented. And I think, honestly, when you build a team, you are just as good as your worst player. There is no worst player on this FAU roster, and it's certainly not J.R. Wilson. I think he's definitely in competition.
Yeah, he could definitely be that outside guy. But I want to look at someone we haven't talked about, Assad Wasim. He's been a standout in fall camp. He had 2 touchdowns the other day. Talk about Assad for us, Hudson.
Yeah, so if you look at the draft last year, you would see Travis Hunter there. This guy, Sagosim, has played with Travis Hunter. He has experience. He has been redshirted under Coach Prime. He is a Paca native back in state since January 2025. He's the 4M Player of the Year in high school, 3,500 plus all-purpose yards for 38 touchdowns in high school. He then trains with Hall of Famer in the NFL, Chris Carter. He's now in year 2 as FAU's executive director of player management. Chris Carter is. So he is training, it seems like, with the best of the best, either in the receivers across from him or the coaches that he plays with.
Yeah, and you mentioned Chris Carter. Today, he took the podium and he stated, quote, anything Chris tries to tell me, I try to involve it in my game. And that's a quote that really shows that he's able to learn under this coaching staff. A lot of players, especially at his former school in Colorado, are very cocky. They don't want to listen to the coaches. He mentioned straight up, whatever the staff, whatever Coach Carter tells me, I'll listen, I'll incorporate it in my game. And that's the type of guy that you need nowadays with college football, because we're in a new era of college football where a bunch of these receivers have egos. They're now getting paid, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And Assad is saying, I'm going to put my head down, work 100% effort every single day. And that's what FAU needs. And he's really showing that in scrimmage with his multiple touchdown games. So that's a huge positive sign on this FAU roster, that Assad has been really good. But another guy we haven't mentioned about who's going to be in the slot is Jabari Smith. He is a sophomore entering his second year, and he actually saw some playing time last year, which is a huge positive for FAU, because we have a guy who's seen reps on Flagler Credit Union Stadium, and to be able to have that is something that FAU should be really lucky and happy to have. Now, when it comes to Jabari, he's entering his second year. He had a dominant spring game. Talk about how you think he's going to be incorporated in the role he's going to play this year on FAU.
Yeah, well, Jabari Smith, when you look at him, he is speedy and shifty. He is one of the most explosive playmakers on the roster. Now that when you have all this depth and you're one of the most explosive playmakers on the roster, you are going to make a difference. He saw game reps last season, as you mentioned, JJ. He's now making a strong impression in fall camp. He averaged 17.4 yards per catch last year, a very clear deep ball threat. And now with Kagan Velkamp throwing him the picks in, he's going to obviously average more than that. He's known for his craftiness and ability to separate quickly, which will be very helpful on third and short. but he has been looking very sharp in practice and could be poised for a breakout, which is what you love to see as an FAU fan.
It certainly is indeed. And as you mentioned, over 17 yards per catch last season. So he is going to be that deep ball threat. But, Coach Kitley said, we want to air the ball out. We want to be a pass first offense. And who do you pass it to? Receivers. So the receivers are going to play a big role. Can you just talk about Coach Kitley and how he likes to incorporate receivers and how maybe he's been able to do that in the past at his previous jobs?
Yeah, so Coach Kinley said it is one of the most pivotal position groups for FAU this season. With Coach Zach Kitley from Texas Tech, third in the Big 12 in passing, 296.7 yards per game. The Owls project to be a high octane, pass heavy offense at the next shit.
Yeah, 100% Hudson. You know, 297 passing yards is, I mean, I'm just laughing thinking of it because it is such a positive for him to be at a roster who their running back rushed for back to back 1,000 yard seasons. And now he has a receiving core at Texas Tech where they were able to have nearly 300 yards. It's ridiculous, Hudson, and I both think we're sharing a giggle due to it
Yeah,
because
I mean the
FAU is
stats are just
certainly
unbelievable.
FAU is certainly so lucky to have a guy in Kitley who's able to know both the running game and receiving game overall. So I have to ask you, we talked about the four receivers we're expecting to start. But every team has a wide receiver one. You look at, teams that are really successful, they all have wide receiver ones. And the quarterback always has to have a first read. And having that first read is the guy you look to off just right off the snap. There are guys in the NFL like Devontae Adams and Stephon Diggs who are clear wide receiver ones and have separated themselves as that. Now, don't get me wrong, there's some great wide receiver twos: Chris Godwin, T. Higgins, Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper. You got guys who can produce as wide receiver twos, but I want to focus on who you think is going to be that wide receiver one and who you think is going to be the wide receiver two. Who's going to be the first and second read this season for Caden Velkamp?
Yeah, so I mean, I think it goes without saying it has to be Easton Messer. I mean, they literally already played together at Western Kentucky. They already have the chemistry. So if he's looking for his best friend, man, the best guy to go up, make a play on the football, it has to be Easton Messer because there already is that trust factor. Who is the Tom Brady and the Gronk of this team? It has to be Easton Messer and Kagan Belkamp.
I'd say Easton Messer is the wide receiver one. Who do you think is going to be the wide receiver two, though?
I would say it has to be Jabari Smith. I mean, I've never seen or I've never heard about a wide receiver having this good of a training camp without being the wide receiver too. I mean, it is so insanely impressive what he has been doing at training camp. The coaches speak very high of him. He explosive. The playmakers on the rosters. I mean, he just looks so good.
He certainly looks good indeed, Hudson, and I definitely think that he could potentially be that wide receiver too. And he just has the experience with FAU returning. He's the only one of the four guys that we've mentioned who is returning for FAU. Now, I know we assume that Caden Veltkamp's going to be the starter, and I think that he is. You think that he is. But Coach Kitley took the podium on Wednesday of last week and said, quote, it's a five-man battle. And you have some other guys, former Georgia State starter last year, Zach Gibson, transferring in. And when you look at the FAU roster, you can't count out any of these quarterbacks. Case and Wiseman, he's returning from last year. He had a very solid season. And we haven't talked to Kitley since Wednesday. We're going to be talking to him tonight. But this is a question I've continued to ask. Who's going to be the quarterback? Because the wide receiver has to rely on the quarterback first. If the throws aren't good, the wide receiver can't do anything. But Zach Gibson has been super good. And Casey Wiseman, he started the Wofford game last year. So that's a huge positive to have a former starter on FAU who could potentially compete for the starting spot. So, who do you think is going to be the wide receiver one?
Yeah, man. So Zach Gibson, right off the bat, he has 1,000 passing yards at Georgia State. But listen, who doesn't like a little quarterback competition? I mean, it kicks some life into these guys, with all the NIL and whatnot. It gives them something to play for. Right now, though, it seems like Kagan Velkamp is going to be the starter. It looks like he has the job to me. But honestly, whoever the best guy is could take the job. Zach Gibson is a 6th-year student. So I mean, it looks like he has the experience, but Velkamp out of Western Kentucky already playing with the wide receiver one, who we previously mentioned, Easton Messer with the chemistry there. It looks like it's Kagan's job, but everybody else could have the job. I like a little QB battle, though.
I agree. We can definitely expect Velkamp to be the week one starter in College Park just 3 weeks from today, Hudson. But I need to ask you here about how you think this offense really is going to operate because we see teams in college football who are really run heavy. Last year, Boise State, the G5 representative, super run heavy. Ohio State, super pass heavy, the national champions. And some teams really favor the run, some teams really favor the pass. Now, obviously, we expect this to be a pass first air raid offense. However, it's certainly possible that the running game gets incorporated. If you had to make a prediction on percentage of snaps, because under Kitley, 59% of plays were runs at Texas Tech. However, he wants to be pass first, which is very interesting. Would you really put it at 50-50 right now? Or would you favor one of the two parts, passing or running, 60-40, 70-30? What are your thoughts overall on that?
I mean, in a perfect world, it's going to be 50-50. But realistically, will they both work in some games? No. I mean, there's some teams that defend the run or pass better. I think it usually depends on what team you're playing that week. But it seems like Coach Kitley is very fond of his receiving game with all his receivers. I think, if anything, it might lean at least 60-40 to the receivers. But again, that looks like a little strategic play to me.
Yeah, I definitely, if I were to favor one, I'd be choosing the receivers just due to the Caden Beltcamp likes to throw the ball and he gets his wide receiver one. I mean, it is a perfect world. What else could you wish for? You have Caden Beltcamp, Easton Messer, QB1 wide receiver run, which is just a huge positive. And I'm really optimistic and ecstatic for the season. Now, Easton Messer, he was, as we mentioned, he was a nominee for the Paul Horning Award watch list, which goes to the most versatile player. And, obviously, some people think he might win it, some people might think he won't. Assad Wasim, he was nominated to the 4M Player of the Year. When it comes to these Player of the Year awards, that's something that receivers could definitely get. Now, do you have any hot takes from this receiver room that you might think would be possible? My hot take is that Easton Messer is going to be first team All American and he's going to win the Paul Horsling Award. He also was nominated or won the Bursling Award for the best walk on. So he's already experienced awards. I think he wins the Paul Horning Award. And I also think that he's first team All American. Do you have any hot takes for this wide receiver room?
Yeah, who doesn't mind some accolades, right? I agree with the Easton Nestor take. I think he has the potential to be the best wide receiver in this American conference. But I also want to go to my guy Jabari Smith. I know I'm tooting his horn a lot this podcast, but listen, he's so speedy and shifty. You said it goes to the most versatile player in college football. I think Jabari Smith, honestly, when you look at him with training camp last season and whatnot, he fits that description. It could be Easton Messer versus Jabari Smith for this award, to be honest with you. Who knows, right? I mean, that is my hot take. And Jabari Smith just looks so good.
if you have Easton Messer versus Jabari Smith competing it out at the end, hey, who wouldn't love that? Because if that happens, that means the team's doing good.
Something's
If
going
we
right, right? Yeah.
if we have two guys to potentially win that award. Last question for you, Hudson, here on the receiver room. Now, I want to focus more towards the whole of the team and every single guest I've asked this to because it is early, but the season is just on the horizon. August 30th is the first game. We're 26 days away from it, just 2 hours away from 25 days away from the season, which is a huge mark. As the time we're recording this, looking at this year's schedule, looking at FAU's schedule this year, if we have to make an early schedule prediction, it's way too early. We have to get, within a week, but I wouldn't say it's way too early anymore. When we first started recording these, it was early, but now we're within 30 days. What's your schedule prediction for FAU this year? And second, how do you think the receivers exactly are going to be incorporated game in and game out?
Well, first of all, I believe that FAU is going bowling this season. We are going to a bowl game this season. I believe it wholeheartedly. I think they're going to be so good. Now, the wide receivers, how they're going to be used, they're going to be used, as Zach Kitley was saying, Easton Messer going to be the wide receiver one, Jabari Smith, wide receiver two. But then it kind of is a gray area from there. As we mentioned earlier in the show, there's some competition. We like the competition. But it seems like Easton Messer is going to be the deep ball threat here, and Jabari Smith to be the quick, I would say like maybe 8 yard slant guy on third and short.
100% agree with you there. FAU's going bowling. You heard it first from Hudson Friedman. You're going to be seeing a lot more of him throughout our coverage on the nightowls.com Night Owls podcast. I'm JJ Metz, your host, alongside Hudson Friedman. If you made it this far, make sure you subscribe. It's free. You can always change your mind. Hit that like button and check out our written work at nightowls.com. You're going to be seeing a lot of work from our writers, Alex, Ryan. So check that out, Nixon. And thank you so much for watching. See y'all in the next one. Daily coverage of FAU.